Hello, everyone, and welcome to Crime in Court. This is the Canton cover up Commonwealth versus Karen Reed. We also talk about Aiden Turtleboy Kearney, and we will be talking about both of them today. We have a lot to cover. There's been so much in the last week or so we're going to cover it all. In order to do so, I'm going to try to keep each topic brief. I'm going to jump around a lot from topic to topic, but it'll make sense. So, we are on episode 97, Proctor's Fate, Levy Resigns, Brennan is a clown, and much more. So, as you can see, that is attorney Hank Brennan, and he's dressed up like a clown, and you'll see why as we get to it. So, let's get started with the presentation. As you can see, this is, camera is off. I'm just doing voiceover only. Still recovering from hip surgery. This was my good hip that I had operated on, so it's kind of more difficult for sitting up this time around for some reason. So I'm still kind of, reclining slash laying down as I record these because I just can't sit up so for very long. So apologies, but you'll be able to follow along as we go. So, up first is Proctor's fate. So, what is going to happen to Proctor? Well, recently, this was January 6th, so whatever day that was, 4 days ago from today, um, the Commonwealth filed this updated notice regarding Michael Proctor. So, let's read it. Says the trial of Commonwealth versus Karen Reed began in Norfolk Superior Court on April 16th, 2024, with Beverly J. Cannoni presiding. Trooper Proctor testified in that matter on June 10th and 12th, 2024, and was subject to cross-examination relating to alleged conflicts of interest, communications with non-involved civilian persons regarding the Reed case, remember his group text to all of his friends, and statements regarding the defendant from which defense counsel argued a bias could be found, like him wanting her to take her own life because that would just solve all of his problems, basically, and the whole cover up would go away because she wouldn't be fighting. No one expected her to fight this hard. And I truly believe that they thought she would just take a plea deal and it would go away. But that's not how the real world should work. And because she has the ability, she's fighting it. All right. So on on July 22nd, 2024, the Commonwealth informed counsel that the court that Trooper Proctor has been suspended without pay and was the subject of an internal affairs investigation on January 15th, 2025, 5 days from now. Trooper Proctor is scheduled to appear before Massachusetts State Police Trial Board for allegations of misconduct in the performance of his duties as a uniformed member of the Massachusetts State Police. This goes beyond some inappropriate texts. This is misconduct. There was maybe some taillight planning going on, maybe some falsifying some records, like when they towed her car. So this is kind of important to realize the context. It's not just, he said some inappropriate things and talked about a case outside of work with his buddies. It's way more than that. This is misconduct on a much bigger level. So, upon a finding that there are reasonable grounds for discipline, the colonel for the Massachusetts State Police may immediately impose permanent discipline, meaning he could be terminated permanently and no more is he or isn't he. So the Commonwealth expects that pursuant to this court's March 20th, 2024 opening order or ongoing order, pursuant to Mass R. Crim P 17, the Massachusetts State Police will produce all responsive reports and records pertaining to the discipline of Trooper Proctor to the defendant and Commonwealth at the conclusion of their internal affairs investigation. So they are saying they will turn everything over once they get it, once the hearing takes place and we learn what happens. All right, so let's move on to this next article that I have for you. So this is actually from the Boston Herald, written by Rick Sobey, I guess is his name. All right, it says trooper to face state police trial board. So disgraced Mass State Police Trooper Michael Proctor, who's suspended for his offensive text about the homicide defendant, Karen Reed, is set to face an MSP trial board after the internal affairs investigation wrapped up. Proctor, who in text called Reed a whack job and a babe, and some other choice words, and texted no nudes so far to his colleagues while searching her phone, and wrote hopefully she KILLs herself. He was suspended without pay following the first Reed trial in July. He remains relieved of duty and suspended without pay, according to state police. Now that the state police finished, sorry, this is blurry. Somebody took a picture of it, and of course, that's just, how it goes. Okay, so now that the state police finished its internal affairs investigation, the department will convene a trial board next week as the next step in the disciplinary process. The trial board will be out of the public's eye as Proctor could face permanent discipline. At the end of any IA investigations, the department may pursue charges that would be adjudicated by the state police trial board. So that's interesting. We could see some, not just discipline, but actual criminal charges filed against him if he did falsify some records or plant taillight, if it was proven that he did that. So the board makes disciplinary recommendations to the superintendent who determines the final outcome. The superintendent, remember, I believe is the new person that Healy just brought on, or is he the colonel? I don't know. Can't remember what his position was. The person who she, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm thinking too hard. Anyways, he's going to be facing possible disciplinary recommendations and maybe charges. The State Police Trial Board shall hear cases regarding violations of rules, regulations, policies, procedures, orders, or directives, reads the department's rules and regulations. The trial board shall enter a determination of guilty or not guilty for each charge specification, according to the rules and regulations. It also says, in the event that the trial board finds guilt by a preponderance of the evidence on one or more of the charges, the trial board may or shall consider the evidence presented by the department prosecutor pertaining to the accused member's prior offenses, disciplinary history, and shall make recommendations for administrative action. The trial board forwards its findings to the lieutenant colonel/deputy superintendent. In the event the trial board finds the member not guilty, such findings shall be final and conclusive, except as otherwise provided by law. So if, like, the FBI finds him guilty, but the MSP find him not guilty, they could still come after him. All right, so finally it says the department relieved Proctor of duty on July 1st, which was right after the mistrial took place. And then they transferred him from the Norfolk County Detective Unit to Field Services, though he was ineligible to work, convened a duty status hearing. So he was transferred basically out of his office for about a week, and then and relieved of his gun and whatever. And he was put on desk duty for about a week or so, and then by July 8th, he was suspended without pay. And he's been sitting there suspended without pay since July 8th, kind of waiting for this whole thing to, is he or isn't he going to get fired? And I think that they've been purposely waiting specifically to drag it on out so that he stays employed until the retrial. But as it's looking, I don't think they can anymore because, I mean, it's kind of getting obvious. And I think Proctor's behavior is becoming a problem in other cases, such as the Brian Walsh case, where that defense attorney has filed to basically throw out everything that Michael Proctor has touched, and Michael Proctor was one of the lead investigators, so that pretty much that covers like the all the incriminating searches that Brian Walsh did for taking his wife's life and getting rid of the body. He searched for a lot of things as to how to get rid of a body, allegedly. Anyways, okay, so let's move on to our next topic, which Levy resigns. That's our next topic. So let me switch screens here. We've got a statement. This is straight from the U.S. Attorney's Office from this week, Monday. Says United States Attorney Joshua S. Levy announced today that effective January 17th, 2025, he will be stepping down as the United States Attorney for the District of Massachusetts. He just recently came on as, as being appointed full time being the U.S. Attorney. So I don't know. He put in his resignation. I'm assuming he has somewhere else he's going, that he has other plans ahead. U.S. Attorney Levy tendered his resignation to United States Attorney General Merrick Garland this afternoon. So, Monday afternoon, U.S. Attorney Levy became the acting U.S. Attorney on May 19th, 2023. Levy, who was twice nominated by President Biden for the permanent role as the U.S. Attorney, was appointed U.S. Attorney by Attorney General Garland in November of 2024. So he hasn't been in the role very long. I mean, he's been in the acting U.S. Attorney, but he hasn't been the appointed U.S. Attorney for very long. As U.S. Attorney, he served on two subcommittees of the Attorney General's Advisory Committee, White Collar Crime and Terrorism and National Security, and was a member of the Human Trafficking Work Group. U.S. Attorney Levy also served as the Northeastern U.S. representative for the U.S. Attorney Community on the Domestic Terrorism Executive Committee. Here's a statement from Levy. He says, serving as the U.S. Attorney for the District of Massachusetts has truly been the highlight of my career. Every day over the past 3 years, I have witnessed firsthand the unwavering dedication and extraordinary skill of the federal prosecutors, support staff, and law enforcement partners who work tirelessly to hold the rule of law, keep our communities safe, and protect civil rights. My core touchstones as the leader of this office have been to serve with the highest integrity and a commitment to pursue justice in every case by following the facts and the law without fear or favor. U.S. Attorney Levy continued, we have brought some incredibly important cases these last 3 years, including the Sandra Birchmore case, finally getting justice, or on our way to getting justice for her. His team had arrested Matthew Farwell back in, I want to say October of last year, somewhere around there. All right. So, where was I? Sorry. As I reflect on my tenure, I am equally proud of the thoughtful, deliberative process engaged in by our team whenever making the grave decision about whether to bring federal charges to ensure it is consistent with the principles of federal prosecution. So, under U.S. Attorney Levy's leadership, the office brought several high impact cases, including charges in the death of Sandra Birchmore, the $650 million resolution of criminal and civil charges against McKinsey and Company for their illegal conduct in support of Purdue Pharma's marketing of opioids. Oh boy, I'm going to get so stricken on this channel for all the things that I'm saying. YouTube doesn't like, and we're done with the censoring. YouTube, knock it off. That's what I say. And charges against two men for their alleged involvement in a scheme to procure sensitive drone technology to Iran, which resulted in the deaths of 3 U.S. soldiers. Under Levy's tenure, Jack Teixeira was sentenced to 15 years in prison for leaking highly classified documents, and 7 former employees of eBay were sentenced for cyberstalking a Massachusetts couple. So, I mean, they've been very busy. It seems like almost every other day they have some kind of arrest or something going on that seems to be benefiting the state. Although, still no word about Karen Reed, and he was recently interviewed about leaving office and whatnot by some news stations. And he was asked about Karen Reed, and he was basically point blank, I've never said we were doing an investigation about Karen Reed, and that's all I'm going to say about it. And so he was like, I'm not speaking about it, and don't ask me about Karen Reed again. That was pretty much the sentiment in his answer. I'd show you the clip, but it's really short and I don't have it on hand, and I just basically summed it up. All right, so what else did he do? Under his tenure, U.S. Attorney Levy also oversaw $574 million criminal and civil enforcement action against Raytheon for overcharging government contracts. During U.S. Attorney Levy's tenure, the office solidified its position as the most successful U.S. Attorney's office in the country in terms of False Claims Act recoveries, with over 1 billion, blah, blah, blah. It's hard to say words today. With over $1 billion recovered in 2024 alone. So that's pretty good, I'd say. And they were the most successful U.S. Attorney's Office in the country. One of the most important series of prosecutions in the last 3 years were brought by the newly created Human Trafficking and Civil Rights Unit. This dedication team of lawyers, support staff, and victim witness advocates has secured convictions and lengthy sentences against 20 individuals since the unit was formed in 2022, including numerous convictions of people who trafficked minors or used force, fraud, or coercion to engage in these acts. The office's other notable achievements under Levy's leadership as U.S. Attorney included impact prosecutions in the areas of public corruption, which we're still waiting on with Michael Morrissey, so any day now, child exploitation, hate crimes, public accountability, fentanyl, moving of said thing, and I don't know. I'm gonna get struck for the F word anyways, this one. Um, and gun violence, just to name a few. So he's done a lot of things that is gonna get my channel struck. That's great. Uh, or at least censored, shadow banned from being out there for more people. So with that being said, please make sure you hit the like button or comment. And that'll help the algorithm so that it gets pushed out to more people because this stuff's important and I think we should be staying on top of this. All right, so today's announcement marks the end of U.S. Attorney Levy's second tenure with the Department of Justice in 1997. He served as an assistant U.S. Attorney in the Criminal Division Economic Crimes Unit. Levy left the Department of Justice in 2024 to become a partner at Ropes and Gray, where he served as co-chair of the firm's 325 lawyer litigation and enforcement practice, co-managing partner of Ropes and Gray's Boston office, and co-chair of the firm's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. In 2022, Levy was inducted into the American College of Trial Lawyers in recognition of his courtroom advocacy. Immediately prior to becoming the acting U.S. Attorney, Levy served as the first Assistant U.S. Attorney from January 2022 through May 2023. So he did have experience as the Assistant U.S. Attorney before he became the acting and then eventually the appointed U.S. Attorney for Massachusetts. The first assistant, U.S. Attorney Mary B. who Moran, I don't know, Moran, who has been with the Department of Justice for 16 years, will assume the role of acting U.S. Attorney following U.S. Attorney Levy's departure. So this woman, I wanted to look up who she was. Somebody had posted something, and I wanted to clear or verify that what they were posting on X was actually accurate. So, according to AI, this woman, Mary Moraine, who is going to be the acting U.S. attorney, at least until perhaps Trump appoints his own. But for now, she is going to be the acting U.S. attorney for Massachusetts. And this is what I found out about her. Mary B. Moraine, same woman, was an assistant U.S. attorney who worked on the case against Whitey Bulger. So the U.S. attorney who could potentially be investigating Michael Morrissey's office, the Massachusetts State Police, all of the above, everybody involved in 34 Fairview Road and John O'Keefe's demise. Um, she was a prosecutor on the Whitey Bulger case, and Hank Brennan, Hanky, is he was obviously the defense attorney for Whitey Bulger, as we know. So they would probably know one another. They probably might, I mean, they might be professionals and yada yada, but sometimes when you go up against someone that's kind of your nemesis in trial, you might not be friends with them. I don't know if they were nemesi. I don't know how you say plural. Nemesis. Um, I don't know what their relationship was or how they got along, but we at least know that they do know of each other and they've been on opposite ends of the court um, when presenting a case. So there you have it. She's been involved in the legal proceedings against Bulger. She wrote a letter after Bulger's death stating that the criminal case was over. Moraine said that the proceeds from Bulger's assets would be given to the victims, and Moraine also said that if a civil lawsuit was filed to seize Bulger's assets, they would try to reach out to the victims again. So, a little bit about her and the Whitey Bulger case. Just a little brief info about that. What is our next topic that I have planned for us? Oh, Brennan is a clown. Let's get to it. 1 second. All right, so I have a couple clips queued up for us, and we're gonna just kind of get a feel for how he. We're not gonna watch all of this. This is going to be what we're watching is the Daubert hearing of Hank Brennan, who's doing the questioning for the prosecution, and the woman you see on the screen, that is Dr. Marie Russell. She is former uh, trauma ER doctor. She knows wounds. She can identify wounds. She's written basically the book on dog bite um, identification and treatment and whatnot. So she also has an experience in law enforcement. Like she's very well rounded in her knowledge. She is incredibly smart, incredibly qualified to testify on dog bites. Yet this is day two, mind you, of the Daubert hearing because she was back in December was the first day, and he had her go the whole day. And he continued it for another full day. It went till 4 o'clock in the evening. So I'm just gonna play some portions of it, um, just to kind of give you guys a feel of what Hank Brennan's questioning is like, how he treats people. He's very condescending. He's very rude to her. He keeps trying to like trap her in some kind of answer, like getting her to try to trick her into changing her answer. And I know that's what, you're kind of supposed to do as a lawyer, but the way he does it, he's just swarmy. He's not likable. He gives me ick vibes so much, and you'll probably see why. He's just so rude and condescending to poor little Dr. Marie Russell, who I just find adorable. Here we go. So, um, I don't remember what this is about. Identifying. So he's trying to lock her into like some kind of um specific measurements or tool or system in which she does her identifications. And because it's all relative to, multiple things, and because she's as a doctor, you have to take in everything, and it's all about patterns, identifying patterns. She says to him a billion times on the stand that it's basically about patterns that you're looking for, and that's why she can conclude that the patterns on John's arm come from a dog bite. But that's not a good enough answer for him, and he keeps hounding her. He hounded her all day. Like, it was brutal to watch. I was getting so angry. So I'm just gonna play like a couple clips. So here we go.
I actually find that offensive.
Oh, okay. Well, is that what you're doing?
No.
So if
Oh, let's rewind that. What did she find offensive? I didn't start that at the right spot.
what standard are you working with?
Standard.
I'm not so sure I understand what you mean by standard then, because I know how I evaluate wounds.
You have personal experience where you've treated dog wounds, and you look at it, and you're simply deciding whether or not to you this looks similar. You're giving your personal aside, aren't you?
I actually find that offensive.
Oh, okay. Well, is that what you're doing?
No.
So if you're comparing it to an actual science, a standard, a methodology, I want to learn that methodology from you. So what I'm asking you is, tell us, where does that come from, the methodology where you have a point of comparison, where you look at a wound and you compare it for similarities to another item?
There are several published peer-reviewed articles that describe what to look for, how to observe, evaluate, and then sometimes treat wounds, dog bite wounds.
Yeah.
There are several authors that have published similar things. And in terms of there being an organization that says, here is the standard for dog bite wounds,
Right.
I don't think that there is one.
When you say you don't think there is one, if you're an expert in this field, you would know that there is not one, is there?
Do you see how he asks this question? You would know that there is not one, is there? But you're not an expert. Like, he's just so condescending and rude. And he was like this the whole day, mind you.
There is not one that I know of, correct?
Well, you're not guessing there might be one you don't know of.
I don't know of any published standard by an organization.
So it'd be fair to say, when you are giving an opinion, what you personally believe to be a dog bite wound, there is no standard in dog bite science that shows you what the standard is. There's nothing to compare it to.
Again, it's based on a combination of the experiences that I've had over the last 30 years, observing, evaluating, and treating dog bite wounds, plus
30 years in the ER, treating trauma, treating wounds, dog wounds included.
the numerous articles that I have read on dog bite wounds, their characteristics, morphology, patterns, and other things like complications, etc.
Okay, so to get back to my question, I know that you're using your experience and your memory, but there is no standard of comparison. There is no methodology that is accepted as a practice.
I disagree.
Okay. Can you share with us one of those articles that you've been relying on to combine with your personal experience to come to conclusions in dog bite analysis?
Well, there's the Munich that we talked about.
I didn't talk about it. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Oh, certainly.
Okay, please.
Okay, would you like to go through it together?
I'm asking you to tell us about what you're basing your opinion on, and you said it's Munich, so I don't know much about
Okay,
it.
that's one of them.
Well, tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, well, in that article, the authors described a fatal case, but also described what some of the characteristics are in dog bite wound cases. What types of wounds you see, their appearance, their distribution, their configuration, the different aspects like that. Many of them are parallel. Things that would affect the appearance of wounds that physicians know about, such as elasticity of skin and other ways that wounds can be distorted from.
She sounds like an expert to me. With all the stuff that she's saying and the words that she's using, she sounds like she knows what she's talking about. But this was like early in the day. This was only, less than an hour into questioning. And remember, she was on the stand for an entire 8-hour day. Obviously, there were breaks and lunch in between, but she was on the stand for a long time.
from one to another wound. So you have to know a little bit about wound characteristics and basically things to look for in the forensic evaluation of dog bite wounds.
Did that article lay out a standard of methodology?
I guess I don't understand what you're getting at.
Rather than having a particular case study where that article talks about a person that was attacked by a dog and deceased, correct?
In that case,
Yes.
however, it
And
referenced.
and
I'm
it's,
sorry, Your Honor, if you could finish the question.
Yes, I'm going to let her finish.
Please.
And Mr. Lessie, for objections, just simply objection.
I'm sorry, Your Honor, I will continue.
Yeah, because in Massachusetts, in Bev's courtroom, you can't state your objection because she is too weak of a judge to argue or listen to arguments from lawyers and to be able to push back publicly. So she just wants people to object, and then she can say yes or no. And then if there was a problem, they want to continue talking about it, she'll do a sidebar. But she won't do it publicly. She does not like public arguments. As you can see, the one time that she did do the public argument, like in the Karen retrial when they were doing the jury instruction sheet, and Alan Jackson pushed back on Canoni about the uh, instructions not having a checkbox for not guilty and how it was ridiculous. Well, he didn't say that, but um, yeah. So then, she got pushback from both of them, and then she like acted out and was like, "Is that funny to you, Miss Reed? And we're done here," and just like stormed out like a little spoiled brat. And then came out later and said she made the change, but I don't know if they ever checked that it was actually done. But anyways, all right. So you get my point. Judge Canoni is blah. She she's inconsistent and she's a weak judge.
That article, it was a case report, but it was also a review of previous literature. So in the review of the previous literature that had been published, they came up with recommendations. So yes, there are recommendations in that article.
in that article, it talked about a wound to the neck where the deceased bled to death, correct?
Yes.
Okay. It didn't talk about pattern recognition analysis.
I
in that article,
disagree.
did it? Okay. And did it talk about a standard of practice of methodology?
Recommendations.
No, but that's not what I'm asking you. I'm asking you, did it have a standard, a methodology that it discussed?
These were authors that were practitioners, and they weren't, I don't believe they were in a position to create a standard.
In fact, you can't point to one place where there is a
That's probably why there isn't a standard, because every wound can be different with, each dog bite, depending on where they bite, the movements of both the human and the dog, and, what else is involved. And so every dog bite would be different. So how to treat them like in a standard way would be, there is no standard. And the people that are doing the treatment are already out there doing the treatments and learning on the job rather than the some standard organization, enforcing certain practices.
readily accepted standard in the dog bite community for identifying dog bites. You can't point to one article, journal, book.
That's correct.
You're getting
And so
frustrated.
because there is no methodology or standard for you to look at, it involves a
She is getting frustrated because sometimes she takes a moment, takes a breath, and then answers calmly. But you can see in her face for one split second, she's like, "Oh my God, I want to choke this man." I mean, metaphorically in her head. No violence.
great deal of your subjective opinion based on your experience treating dog wounds, doesn't it?
With all due respect, Mr. Brennan, I'm not somebody that just came in off the street. I have at least 30 years as a physician, and I use that information in helping me form my opinions about wounds. I've seen all types of wounds.
Tell him.
Okay, so my
Tell him. All right, so that's a good place to end. I'm going to read this article that I found online. Somebody had posted it. It's called "A One-of-a-Kind Trauma Doctor." Guess who it's about? So this was written by Joan Allen for Science and Medicine, oh, sorry, this is actually the Los Angeles Times. Let me flip my screen. Sorry, I didn't realize that. It's One of a Kind Trauma Doctor by Jane Allen. And obviously, the topic is Dr. Russell. This was written in 2000, by the way, just so you know. So this was when she was a practicing physician. 24 years ago, or 25 years ago, she was a practicing physician. All right. So it's striking how much Dr. Marie Russell still thinks like a cop. Remember, I said she had law enforcement experience first. Inside the emergency room at County USC Medical Center on a recent afternoon, she worries almost as much about preserving the bullet that pierced a shooting victim's flesh as she does about his physical discomfort. After urging the physician's assistant to remove the bullet without any metal tools that could mar the markings. Yes, that could like mess up the markings. Crucial in the police investigation, she then gently asks the patient for permission to see and photograph his wounds and his tattoos. The 32-year-old man, shot 6 hours after being paroled, that's bad luck, obligingly pulls up his shirt so she can examine the massive discolored bruise that is developing where the bullet lodged after missing his spine. You lucked out, she tells him. You could have been paralyzed. Then he rolls up his left shirt sleeve. She leans in for a closer look at the multicolored peacock on his inner arm. Knowing full well that peacocks and dragons are commonly tattooed inside the arm to hide signs of drug use. I did not know that, but it makes sense. She nonetheless asks why he chose the design. Acknowledging that he used heroin, the man doesn't mention the fresh puncture indicating he likely injected earlier that day. Without expressing any judgment, Dr. Russell takes a few snapshots of his tattoo as well, then steps from behind the examining room curtain. She says the injection site is something I don't have in my photo collection. Um, she said this as she sounded like a butterfly collector who just snagged a prized specimen. So these were things that, she found passionate. She had a passion in medicine and treating wounds, apparently. Former Malden, Mass. Police officer who traded a uniform and walking shoes for scrubs and sneakers years ago has an unusual resume in this world of inner city trauma care. On top of police skills, she has honed her trauma skills within 2 miles of 30 East LA street gangs and studied forensic pathology under LA's famous former coroner Thomas Noguchi. I've never heard of that name, but apparently he's famous in LA. She has shot more than 750 photos of tattoos and hundreds more of unusual wounds to help her understand how they're inflicted and how they heal. Remember, this article was written 25 years ago, 24 and a half years ago. Not knowing Marie Russell was going to be this expert in a high profile case that's being televised and being scrutinized in front of a national audience for her qualifications, her skills, her knowledge of injuries and trauma wounds. And here she is in an article talking about it. It, from 25 years ago. Russell incorporates the photos into her lectures that she delivers here and abroad to medical students, law enforcement, and forensic societies. She shares medical and sociological insights into sexual assaults, domestic violence, child abuse, and the drug use and prison histories of gang members. She is certainly single handedly developing a new field of what you call clinical forensic medicine, Noguchi says. We only have one Marie Russell, but we need at least 1,000 such persons to serve major communities. This LA famous coroner says there's only one Marie Russell, but we need thousands of her. This should be on, I'm going to have to post this on X because that's amazing. That's pretty good credentials there, County USC faculty noticed Russell earlier in her residency because of her multidisciplinary skills and recruited her for a permanent faculty spot, says Dr. Catherine R. Calliner, an emergency room doctor and fellow faculty member. It's a joy to have her around. The first person I would go to for questions about tattoos or forensics or ballistics or gang affiliation or pathology information would be Marie. So she knows it all. She could be an expert on all of these things probably. Says Colliner or Challenger, who whatever. It's a hard name. Challenger. Who turns to Russell on touchy cases inside the hospital's jail unit, such as suspected cruelty or CA. Moses Remedios, the physician's assistant who asked for her advice on whether to remove the bullet from the flank of the tattooed gunshot victim, says she's got the total cop street smart going, plus she's a good doctor. He then extracted the bullet with his gloved fingers as requested. She always knew she wanted to be a doctor. Although she began her career as a police officer, Russell, 45 at the time, says that she always knew she wanted to be a doctor. A native of Woodside, New York, she was one of 5 children raised by a father who worked for the railroad and a mother who did clerical work. Russell remembers as far back as the 2nd grade admiring her family doctor, a woman who later gave the teenage Russell some of her medical journals. That's interesting. A good student, Russell spent a year at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, but moved home when her mother developed cancer. After her mother's death, she returned to Massachusetts and began taking courses in criminalistics and criminal investigation at Northeastern University. Do you see? Do you see why Hank Brennan is scared of her? Then, on a dare, she took the police exam and passed. Do you see why Hank Brennan is scared of her? Although she hadn't set out to become a police officer, Russell knew that there were funds available to help officers further their educations. So she completed police training and became the first female officer in Malden, Massachusetts, north of Boston. So she's familiar with the area, at least somewhat. While on patrol there, she pursued her bachelor's degree in psychology, an emergency medical technician course, and a stint as an emergency room clerk got her hooked on emergency medicine, so she applied to medical school at the University of Massachusetts. By 1983, which she calls as the hardest year of my life, she was 28 years old and juggling first-year medical studies with a full-time police job 50 miles away. In her 2nd year of medical school, she was introduced to pathology and found herself torn between doing advanced training in that or emergency medicine. She could only do both at a big city medical center with an affiliated coroner's office, so she headed to County USC in 1987 for her residency. While examining gunshot and stab wounds suffered by patients from surrounding neighborhoods, she became fascinated by their tattoos' meanings. The more I asked, the more I became interested, she recalls, studying the markings of the various gangs. So this woman is very, very brilliant, and she can put patterns together like in her head almost instantly before you even walk into a room. She knows who you are and she knows things about you that you'd be like, what? How do you know that? Because she's observant and she pays attention and she looks for patterns, so she knows things. All right, I'm trying to get a sip of water in my stupid straws. Got air in it. All right, so studying the markings of the various gangs. Understanding the forensic significance of the symbols has helped shape her handling of patients, especially shooting victims. For example, before County USC, doctors understood gang tattoos. They inadvertently put members of opposing gangs before they under. That's sentence isn't written right. Before they were able to understand gang tattoos, they inadvertently put members of opposing gangs in the same treatment areas, which is probably a big no-no. Russell then created problems. Oh, sometimes, no, sorry, not Russell. Sometimes it created problems, Russell says, such as gang members threatening and verbally abusing each other. So the hospital staff began limiting visitors to gang members' mothers, and at times admitting the patients under pseudonyms to keep rival gangs from trying to come after them. So, like, she's also protecting people. There have been incidents in the hospital where gang members have tried to come into the hospital and finish the job, she says. Russell has become alert to the distinctive markings of Black and Latino gangs and white supremacists who come through the doors learning about symbols and numerals that are a mystery to most people, again, looking for patterns. At one time, Russell asked a patient if his 11550 tattoo signified his zip code, since she knew some LA gangs had 213 area code tattoos to identify their home turf. The patient responded that the 5 digits represented the penal code for being under the influence of a controlled substance. Since then, Russell has learned to recognize many symbols of a prison past. This is so interesting, isn't it? The number of teardrops tattooed below the the corner of the eye can indicate how many years a patient has been in prison. A Salvador Dali-like image of a melting clock means the person has, quote, done time. And prominent images of the Madonna or Christ tattooed on the back are used to deter prison R word. Can't say on YouTube, although I've already said every other word besides that. Some tattoos influenced her medical decisions. An unexplained fever in a patient with symbols of drug use may indicate the possibility of a drug related infection. Prison watchtowers or symbols of homosexual acts may make her suspect HIV or hepatitis. Despite her demanding schedule in the emergency room, where she's as apt to help a patient untangle an intravenous line as she is to mobilize a trauma team, and teaching at County USC and Cal State LA, she is also managing to raise a nephew 14 and niece 18, now married. I want to say also, because somebody I think posted, like, well, she doesn't have any kids. Well, look at that. She didn't need to have her own because she was raising her nephew and her niece. And so what if she didn't have kids? I don't have kids. That doesn't make me a bad person. Bringing up children is the hardest thing I've done, she says. I also made her give up the guns that she's had since she was a police officer. It gave her it made her give them up. So she didn't want to be a police officer after she started raising kids. The guns moved out of the house the day my children arrived, said Russell, who is, by her own admission, a fanatic about safety. She has known she has been known to annoy her family by giving smoke detectors for Christmas. I love this woman. Russell knows she inhabits a different world than that of most people, at a point that was driven home one day at her niece and nephew's school, which she suddenly realized that an incident that disturbed the nuns there was minor compared with what I hear and see every day. Oh, some incident that annoyed the nuns or made the nuns concerned was very minor. She says, it occurred to me that crime and violence are not part of their life. My life is so different. My life centers around violence. Even at home, she spends many hours scanning for forensic photos into a computer. In her prize time off, she manages to put the darkness aside to swim or camp, although she does admit her preferred recreational reading is true crime, which I thought was interesting. Thought that was interesting. So that's gonna be a wrap for Dr. Russell. Let me know what you think of Dr. Russell after reading this article, because I have even more admiration for the woman. I think she's pretty awesome. All right, so the next thing, so kind of in the same vein as, Hank Brennan is a clown, let's read the rest of the motions that he filed. So he also filed this motion. This was last week on the 2nd. He filed a notice of discovery. So he handed this discovery over to the defense. Basically, a digital forensic report written by Ian Whiffen, which is 40 pages long. This is the guy that he testified for the prosecution. He had the British accent. He had his own platform that he was trying to sell on the stand. He worked for Sellbrite at one point, but then he created his own app. And now he's like, well, you should use my app instead because it's better. But it's not, because it didn't get the house long to die in cold. But anyway, so he submitted a 40-page forensic report, and that was turned over to the defense. Also, an anonymous letter that was written to Assistant DA McLaughlin. So that is, of course, Laura A. McLaughlin, Assistant District Attorney, without an E or without a Y. I'll put that there for her. Um, someone sent her an anonymous letter. And what do you want to bet? It's like one of the trolls or one of the McAlberts sending an anonymous letter trying to like get somebody in trouble or something. I don't know, trying to uh, move something along in the case or whatever. I don't know. I just feel like it's whatever it is, it's probably a waste of time and probably nothing, but I'm curious as to what it is. 6 pages, an anonymous letter. So they had to turn it over. I don't know. I do not know. All right, so the next and last motion that or it's not even a motion, it's a notice. So this isn't even the actual motion itself. This is a notice from the Commonwealth of their intention to exclude the ARCA witnesses, the crash daddies, the guys that everybody on the internet has called the crash daddies, Daniel Wolf and Andrew Rentschler. They want to exclude their testimony for expected inability to comply with the rules of discovery obligations. I want you guys to remember they're with, oh, I can't write FBI. They're FBI. Well, they were hired by FBI. Sorry, I take that back. They're not actually FBI, but they were hired by the feds. And they're like the top forensic people, the top mechanical engineers, and, they would be the ones to determine if an accident actually did take place or not. And they're the ones that said, you know, John's injuries did not come from Garen's car, basically. All right, so now comes the Commonwealth and respectfully provides notice to the defense and this honorable court that at some point prior to trial, it expects to move to preclude ARCA witnesses Daniel Wolf and Andrew Brenchler from testifying at trial. It is possible that the defense may intend to call one or both witnesses at trial. As proponents of the witnesses, it is incumbent upon the proponent to comply with Rule 14 discovery obligations. The obligation is not dependent upon best efforts or fault. Rather, it is simply the obligation of the proponent of the witness to comply. The history and complexity of the ARCA witnesses' employment and directives are muddled. What? These witnesses are like the most experts of the experts. So for them to say that their employment and directives are muddled and unnecessary to recount for the purposes of this notice. Rather, it is expected that if the defense attempts to proffer either or both potential witnesses, it will be unable to comply with Rule 14 obligations, the Commonwealth does not allege that the defense will be negligent or unwilling to comply. Rather, it is expectant that given the handling and employment of these witnesses, the defense will simply be unable to meet its obligations because they're feds, and the feds determine what they hand over to the state and the defense. They determined that. They determined what relevant materials they could turn over, especially because there is very likely an ongoing investigation into Michael Morrissey's office and the actual people that took John's life and the ones that covered it up. So, yeah, I don't know. Because the feds turned these, or the feds provided these witnesses, how the heck is Karen supposed to give over whatever it is, this discovery that they're saying they're lacking? The Commonwealth provides this notice prior to any hearing or filing a motion to preclude and prior to a ruling on DK 442, Commonwealth's motion for reciprocal discovery pertaining to employees of ARCA. The purpose of this notice is to alert the defense and the Court of Commonwealth's expected position given the trial date and the impact exclusion would have upon the defense. So basically, they're trying to get rid of every single witness that they know hurts their case. So we've already read through the affidavit, and or there wasn't even an affidavit, or was there? I'm trying to remember now. I don't think there was, but there was a motion to exclude Richard Green. Went through that. Then we've gone through this Daubert hearing twice now, 2 long, brutal days for poor Dr. Marie Russell, when it could have taken an hour tops, probably less, just to qualify her. But because Bev doesn't know how to run a courtroom, she allowed this fiasco to go on for 2 days, making Karen Reed bring her attorneys and this particular witness back into the courtroom. She has to pay for all of their expenses to come in, fly in, stay in hotels. I assume meals too, probably time on the stand, perhaps. Although she might be doing this pro bono, Dr. Russell, because she came forward and came to the defense. So she might not be, I don't think she's being paid at all. So but you see my point. They still have to reimburse her. Karen still has to reimburse her, still have to go through this whole shenanigans. By the way, Alan Jackson, speaking of Karen's team, he's obviously from LA and flying people in. Um, his house was in the path of one of those fires, one of the wildfires that's going on in LA. However, as of yesterday afternoonish morning, there was some kind of announcement saying that his house was safe. Everybody's safe. Liza and her home was safe. Uh, uh, so yeah, just keep them in mind as you think about those wildfires. They're out there, and their towns are getting decimated. So let's keep them in our thoughts. All right. So the next topic. Um, Yeah, I just don't even know what else to say about what's his butt, Hank the Tank Brennan or whatever, Hanky Spanky. Um, I just feel like he is really reaching with all of these filings, but because Bev is so corrupt, she's letting this go on and wasting taxpayer money and Karen's money and time. Wasting time because all this time that they are fighting these stupid motions, they could be vetting new experts and getting people prepared for trial because trial's coming up in 3 months. We've got less than 3 months. April 1st is when trial is going to begin, supposedly. All right, so what's our next topic? Let's move on Turtle Boy. Turtle Boy is our next topic. So he's had a lot of things happening this week as well. Turtle Boy, Aiden Kearney, he reports on this case very thoroughly. He is like the number one go-to person for this case. He has uh, a lot of firsthand knowledge. He has a lot of resources, and he's been reporting very accurately and with receipts for this whole time that he's been reporting on the Karen Reed case and trying to expose the corruption. And in the process, he's gotten himself in a little bit of trouble because of, you know, when you try to expose corrupt government officials, usually their first go-to is like, uh, let's stop that person. Let's silence them so they can no longer have a voice and tell the world about my misconduct. That's pretty much how it goes. So, Turtle Boy is facing many witness intimidation charges. They're completely bogus. He also had a incident with a woman that he used to have relations with. There was nothing serious, but she was faking a pregnancy to lure him back. She was also working with his arch nemesis and law enforcement and the prosecutor in his case in order to arrest him while he already had a warrant, or not a warrant, while he had charges on him and he was on bail. So he was on bail, and because of these made up charges, or made up assault charges, this woman that basically was angry that he didn't want her and it was totally revenge. She had a restraining order. She put out a restraining order against him with the help of Ken Mello and Brian Tully. And yeah, so the state colluded with her. This Lindsay Gattani is her name. We're going to listen to a couple things of hers. Um, she she colluded with the government to get Aiden locked up for it was supposed to be 90 days, and then the case got transferred to Supreme Court, and Supreme Court doesn't have the authority to hold you for 90 days, only 60 days. So therefore he was in prison for 60 days because of this wretched woman, Lindsay Gattani. That's a picture of her. Marie Lindsay, I guess she had as her profile for one point. I don't know. She's been many names on X or formerly Twitter. All right, so this next clip, it's audio only. We're gonna listen to on the tape. It's or on the recording. This was from Tuesday, the 7th, and Tim Bradle is questioning Lindsay about her intentions, about, what she's doing all of this for. So she's on the stand, sworn in, and he's questioning her.
So, Ms. Gattani, you know that Mr. Kearney's profession is as a journalist to cover the Karen Reed case, right?
I wouldn't say that's his profession.
Well, you know that Mr. Kearney is covering the Karen Reed case and reporting on it prolifically. Isn't that fair to say?
Yes,
And so if you're afraid of him, you could just not go to the Karen Reed case where he works. Isn't that right?
I could.
But you don't, correct?
I went to the Karen Reed hearing.
When Mr. Kearney announces that he's going to be at the Karen Reed hearing cases, sorry, strike that. When Mr. Kearney announces that he's going to be at the Karen Reed case hearings, you show up. When Mr. Kearney announces publicly on his Twitter feed or his Facebook that he's not going to go, you don't go. Isn't that right?
No,
And you only developed an interest in attending Karen Reed hearings after you got a restraining order on him. Isn't that right?
no, that's not right.
You're trying to use the restraining order as a sword rather than a shield to try to get him in trouble with it, rather than use it as protection. Isn't that right?
No, that's not right.
So you just have an abiding interest in the Karen Reed hearings and you want to go there all of your own accord?
I was interested in the case. That's how I met him.
You never went to a Karen Reed hearing until you got the restraining order. Isn't that right?
I didn't go inside the court, but I went to a protest outside.
hearing and you gave a media interview, correct?
I don't recall.
You walked right up to a camera right near where Mr. Kearney was, and you started talking to the media, didn't you?
No,
It's fair to say that on many occasions, you seek out Mr. Kearney, you try to tweak him, you try to go to where he is and cause some trouble. Isn't that a fair statement?
absolutely not.
So you just have an abiding personal interest in the Karen Reed case that just coincidentally meshes with whenever Mr. Kearney is present covering the hearing?
No, I've only been to 2 Karen Reed hearings and I went to 2 protests and I never paid attention to if he was gone or what he was doing. And the 2 protests I went to were after that order was amended.
And you're also trying to keep the attention on you, keep the controversy going because you're trying to make money off it. Isn't that right?
No,
You have bragged about a big film deal that you're involved in where you're going to be played by someone and you're going to make money off of a film contract. Isn't that right?
that was a joke.
It was a joke.
Folks, quiet, please.
Fair to say that your relationship with Mr. Kearney had been
Sorry, he said by December. It's fair to say.
now in December of 23. It's fair to say that your relationship with Mr. Kearney had been winding down.
Yes, we broke up in early December.
And you called him in a fit of rage around December 9th, saying that you were going to be his worst nightmare and that he didn't know who he was fucking with and that you were basically going to get him. Isn't that right?
Just for the record, what year is that?
23, Your Honor.
I don't recall. I don't remember ever making those exact statements.
And you claimed that you were pregnant with his child, right?
Yes,
And you showed him pictures of some sort of medical pictures that you claimed were linked to your pregnancy with Mr. Kearney, correct?
yes,
And in fact, those pictures, the metadata of those pictures showed that those pictures were a couple of years prior to any interaction with Mr. Kearney, weren't they?
that's what the metadata showed. Yes.
And in December of 2023, you called Mr. Kearney on the phone using this pregnancy story, threatening to, quote, drop that fetal alcohol syndrome baby off at your house and party my fucking life away. You said that to him, didn't you?
When are you talking
On
about?
December 9th, 2023.
I don't recall the exact words I used.
You said that ending the relationship was going to be Mr. Kearney's, quote, biggest regret. You said it's going to be the biggest regret of your life to Mr. Kearney, right?
I don't remember.
And this, all of this,
Biggest regret of his life. By ending the relationship, it's going to be the biggest regret of his life. This is not the first man that she has tried to put away. And this is not the first man that she did get put away and sent to prison from bogus charges because she's done this on an ex too. So this isn't the first.
all of these machinations over the last year, reporting investigator Geppetta to the police with nothing happening from it, reporting me to the Board of Bar Overseers with nothing happening from it, threatening to murder Mary Bagwell because of it. This is all part of your campaign to exact revenge on Mr. Kearney. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, a woman who befriended this Lindsay very briefly, had commented, like you should watch your kids a little bit better, made some comments about her parenting skills that Lindsay didn't like, and also that she was drinking too much. And this set Lindsay off in a voicemail. They were fighting, and she told her she was going to come over there and rip her head off, take her life and her kids' lives. So this other woman, Mary Bagwell, got recently, just I don't even know if it was this week, last week. It was just very recent. Got a restraining order against Lindsay for that.
So that question, again, that goes into the Fifth Amendment issue, Attorney Gray, you know that.
I'm sorry, just one moment, please.
Yeah, she's pleading the fifth on the whole. Did she threaten that Mary Bagwell?
Now, you claim that you want to get away from Mr. Kearney, right? You don't want to interact with him. You're afraid of him. You want to just get him out of your life, right?
Yes,
So if one were to print out all of the texts, all of the tweets, all of the references to Mr. Kearney, they would probably be about 3 inches thick, wouldn't they?
I've never contacted him, and my tweets began 6 months after he had been harassing me, and I started to tweet the truth out there because he was defaming me all on the internet. So you probably find a significant number of tweets from me, but I've never contacted him.
I'm just going to show you this pile. Take a look at that. Just leaf through that and tell me what.
I want to say, anytime Aiden has ever brought her up, and I believe that he purposely tries not to bring her up, as as the least as possible. But I do believe that when he does bring her up, it's because she did something out of the realm of like normal, like a normal breakup, and she did or said something, and that's usually when he brings her up on his channel, or if he's like right now he's suing her because of the defamation, because of all the things that she said about him, because she's called him the R word, which you can't just go around throwing that out and accusing people of doing. And because of that, she received a civil suit from Aiden for $2 million. She doesn't have it, but hey, she's trying to make money, right? She's talking about these movie deals. That is just a joke. She's a joke. Come on.
Tell me when,
Once again, quiet, please.
tell me when you've done. And then I'm just gonna ask you in general, what is that pile?
I'm assuming, since we can't see, I'm assuming they brought in a pile of tweets, posts, social media posts that Lindsay and or any of her aliases have posted talking derogatory or defamatory language against Turtle Boy, I'm assuming. And it's probably a big stack. Oh, here. Turtle Boy says, the crowd reacted to the size of the pile. She spent several minutes going through the pile of tweets, 250 pages. Holy crap, that's like, no wait, a ream of paper is 500. So it's like half a ream of paper. That's crazy. So she's going through the tweets right now.
The court contents of this, judge, and that's what he just described, that it's a 3-inch thick pile of tweets criticizing him, needling him, provoking him, isn't it?
In response to probably a pile this high from him about me, yes.
So this is, by the way, I don't think I even said, so I apologize. This is a restraining order renewal. Wants it gone because he's not a threat to her and she's just using it as a weapon. So that's basically what he's arguing here with everything. And they even brought in Mary Bagwell. She testified to some of it. He plays the whole thing on his channel. Go listen to the whole thing over there if you're interested. I was just going to play some portions of it. So as you can see, she's obsessed with him still to this day. And he's her claim to fame, I guess. And she's not letting that go. So I don't know. I can't stand women like her. I really, really can't. People like her. All right, so this next video that I have for you is all right, so that was Tuesday. The judge did not renew the restraining order. So thankfully, the judge saw through everything with Lindsay Gattani, the fake victim in the Aiden Kearney case. So Lindsay Gattani versus Aiden Kearney. Now we're moving on to the Commonwealth versus Aiden Kearney. And this is he was in court this morning. There was session for arguments for Morrissey's emails and certain things, trying to get that moving along. So I'm gonna play first up the stream from Seeking Justice with Tommy and Boston Mike. They have a show together while Mike streams from his home office, and then Tom's out on the street. They can do a lot more together. They have a great show. So if you want to see the whole thing, I recommend you go watch it over there. But and Tom CPU, he streams outside the courthouse all day, which is great because then you can see the people that are out there and supporting them. And you can also hear from the people when they go in and out of court, which is what we're going to do. So Turtle Boy on his way into court, we're going to hear a little bit from him in just a second as this clip gets started.
Yeah, for Turtle Boy and LG phone on the 24th. I don't know yet. And then the following week we have the the Whitey stand-up. Whitey's the guy that was he's from Canton, who was charged with assault and battery on Chris Albert. And then on the 31st, we have Karen at 9 a.m., okay, for a job art hearing for Richard Green. And the more
Yeah, so Richard Green is going to be back in court for the 30, what did he say? The 31st for Karen Reed at 9 a.m. Was there some other, he was going through a bunch of dates.
if anybody knows of anything that I'm missing, please let me know. Then the following week, on the 19th, we have the national standout, right? And then on the 24th, I have a note here for Turtle Boy and LG phone on the 24th. I don't know exactly. And then the following week, we have the Whitey standout.
So some arguments about LG's phone, and probably she's trying to suppress certain things that she said in her text messages and things.
He's the guy that was he's from Canton, who was charged with assault and battery on Chris Albert. And then on the 31st, we have Karen at 9 a.m., okay, for a job art hearing for Richard Green. And the more and more I read about this, the Celebrate and how it's recognized, and I don't know where they're going with this, man. I don't know what Hank's plan is with this stuff, but bring it on. If it's about the money and you think you're going to drain them for money, yeah, today's for court is for Morrissey's emails, Nick, allegedly, and to disqualify Mello, but Mello can't make it. So I think Better Rose tuning in by Zoom. I don't know exactly what's going on. Aiden saying it's really not a big deal today, but I don't want to speak for him, but let's see. And Nick, great job on Court TV the other night, buddy. That was great, man. You're the motherfucking G. So many things. I'm just trying to keep a calendar. Boston Brandy, thanks for the $5. Is Aiden. Unmute yourself, Tommy. Tommy, unmute yourself.
Today was supposed to be the day where we got Mello on the stand. Yeah. And we asked him about all his messages, but he's sick. Couldn't make it, so I don't even know what's going to happen. I think it's just like
Mello was supposed to take the stand today, and he's not coming.
deadlines, and we're going to try to set a date for a motion to dismiss today. That's one thing we're trying to do. Okay. So we got a new judge today. Yeah. His name is Dueling. What happened to Cosgrove? Wasn't he doing the whole prosecution? Well, yeah, he's the prosecutor. Okay. Then if he's there, why doesn't he Mello? Like, I know you guys need him. Well, right? We need him. He's a witness for us. For you guys, but why can't he get him in through Zoom? Good question. Can they depose him? He's like dying. Like, I don't know if he's dying, but they act like he is. You know, it's like we're in touch with him somehow. Prove he's even alive. Right. So maybe somebody should look into that. You know, like
Yeah.
All right. So listen.
Yeah. Is Mello even alive still? They've been acting like he is so sick he can't come into court. What's he been doing this whole time?
Congratulations on the other day. That was well earned. That was awesome. Well earned. Unfortunately, you had to go through it. So now that you're on the other side of it, right? I totally understand why you're standing up for yourself. Is there anybody else out there that maybe gets in that column of people?
So he did say on X that, I said that he this week the lawsuit, I have not had a chance to even go search for it if I can even find it. But the civil suit for Aiden Kearney versus Lindsay Catani that came out this week, and he posted on X saying that there may be more. So keep an eye out. There's at least 5 for right now. So a lot of people are speculating who the other 4 are, because there's so many that of the trolls that probably need a defamation lawsuit just to get them to stop.
What do you mean? That people that need to be understood that you're not that person, like that you're not doing drugs on film and stuff. I know that, but that was the accusation that was thrown out there. That wasn't true. No, like all the other stuff, they all do it, right? Drugs, all that stuff. Keep going. More arsonists, extortionists, name it. You put a word in there.
Oh, it's just
not going to allow it. Right. My character, that it needs to stop. There you go. To stop. No more.
In the words of Michael Morrissey, it needs to stop now.
Thank you. So a lot of people are happy for you for that. That they're happy that you're standing up for yourself like that. So yeah. So is there anything else we can do for Karen that you're thinking? National Standout Day we got coming up? Money, obviously. Yeah. Flying these other guys and Rich Green. think of what that costs. You got to fly him in, put him in a room, a couple grand.
Feed him.
Time,
Yep. Yep.
What? To prove what we already know, that they're perfectly competent. Because Hank doesn't like what they're saying, so he's like, "Well, I'm gonna dare you with stupid questions for 10 hours and act really snarky about it and talk in my Revenge of the Nerds voice and get up there and just you know anything about methodology? Oh, you don't? Oh, why don't you know anything about that? Oh, shut up, Hank.
How do you feel about Karen's team now? Now, like how we've added people to it, like even Weinberg, right? Yeah.
Weinberg's not part of it anymore. He was part of the appeal.
Okay.
So she's hired from the appeal. But Alessi is part of it.
Yeah.
So are all those law people. Those
Yeah,
kids.
like the intern people,
Yeah,
the younger
all
kids.
the
Okay.
So, the VC and Harvard, those guys.
Oh, because of freaking devil.
It would be a normal morning without Grant.
Yum, yum.
God. Loser. You're going to get threatened with jail today? Try to stay out of jail today, Grant.
I couldn't believe it when we got kicked out the other day. It's like,
That was
Grant,
amazing.
are you serious? That's
Should've seen him when
disrespect,
they
man.
called him.
Yeah, Grant was recording without permission, by the way, the Lindsay Gattani hearing that we just heard a little bit from. And he got kicked out. Basically, he didn't get kicked out. He was told you have to remove your laptop from the court. You can come back in, but your laptop can't. He got told, he got warned, and then he got told to leave his laptop because she could see the light on recording him. What a dumbass.
The laptop got kicked.
He picked up his laptop and what's your name? Rip it out, sir. Rip it out.
Listen, I don't go into court, but I went in there. I went in, and I'm so glad I did.
Yeah.
I had to hear what she said and how she said it towards you. It was so.
Oh, were you in the courtroom?
Yeah, I went in.
Okay, awesome.
I'll never forget it, Aiden.
Cross-examination.
She was the way she treated you and the questions she was throwing at you, and she wouldn't even give you a chance to answer. And she was already at the next question, and you're like,
Five questions. And it was like, isn't it true that when I was pregnant, that you did this and this and this and this? You were pregnant.
You were pregnant.
That's it. And then there's no follow-up.
Like nothing. And she went to the next question. Yeah.
That's what happens when you get
Wow.
advice from this clown. Like that's what happens when he's your legal advisor.
Yeah.
Go into court to list stupid questions that just embarrass your own people.
But when Aiden, honestly, when I heard her say that in court, in the way that she was saying that towards you,
Which part?
the whole thing, all her questions towards you, I couldn't feel more horrible because it put the whole thing and put the whole picture in light.
Yeah.
I mean, they took you away from your kids. That's huge, guy. And they took you.
And Lindsay was representing herself in that hearing, so she had to do the questioning for Aiden, and that's what they're talking about. Like she was doing rapid fire questions and not even like wanting him to answer. And his answers would be like, "That didn't happen. No, that's not true," because her questions would all be lies.
Your freedom for 60 days.
Yeah, all because of her lies.
Just all lies.
Everybody knows it's a lie, and it's like she's not ashamed to, put herself out there. She had this Twitter account, the Joe account, that everybody knew was her, and she took it down last night. Like because like we were able to we put that in the court docs. We know it's her. We approve of it. Like she's not good at hiding it. It's like no more defense. We're on the offense now.
So what if you get information? Are you going to be able to get her phone and her data?
Already have it.
Okay.
We have to give it back now. They want it back.
Oh,
Whatever. You can't unring a bell. We've already seen it all.
right.
It's like I know all the gave us 8 months with it. It's like obviously I've memorized that whole thing. Know everything that's in it. And as far as I don't care about any of that personal shit. Yeah, probably should have redacted that stuff.
Yep.
I don't care about any of that. I care about are all the messages showing that the whole thing was set up.
Correct.
That's all I care about.
I'm shocked that you have 2 different reports from one extraction. That blows my mind.
What do you mean?
Didn't they give you the report that had the stuff they want back? That's
They want the whole thing back.
right. That's
And then they're gonna set
unredacted.
up a team to redact personal stuff from a phone, and we have to figure out what we're allowed to see. So we have to. That's one of the things we need to do today. We have to give them a list of messages we want. So I had to go through all their messages, and I had to say I want messages with this person, this person, this person, this person, this person, and just go down the line. And I said I want all these emails because it's all germane to my case. It all helps my defense.
Right. So is it possible that more than one person colluded to put you in jail?
Oh yeah, I mean you know what it was. It was
Yeah, I do. But I mean, I have to ask the question
it was
because
mostly
it's
crusty and click with them.
Yep.
And they just kind of used Tully. Tully's like, sure. Tully was like a willing participant and all, but
Right.
kind of just fell in his lap. I mean, if you're Tully, you hate me so much. And then, oh, look, what just fell in my lap? A crazy, scorned woman.
right.
And it's like, oh, I can use this. Sure, fuck it. Why not? And then he threw her out like trash.
Right.
And then gave me her fucking phone. Like he used her.
How come they're not in jail for this?
They
I
have
mean,
all the guns,
yeah, I mean, that is a clear setup.
obviously.
I,
And the judges, they control the court, they control the police, they control everything. So they can do whatever they want. only higher authority is the federal government. Right. And, that's the truth of the matter.
What about the Josh Levy? What about him leaving?
I don't think it's that big. I mean, the new people will take over, like whoever the new Trump appointed person is. And hopefully they continue the investigation. I think they will. They're not going to give up on it, Oh, it's my former ride. Look at it. That's my Uber driver.
You been in that? Personalized. Hey, did you hear about Jim Farris?
Rude?
He quit working for D&E.
Did he really?
He shook
What?
Dennis's hand, and they were chit-chatting.
I thought he got a job. He got a job in finance. What do you do?
He doesn't not D&E anymore. So he's at
Get
least
out of here.
yeah, shockable, isn't it?
Oh, maybe he'll snitch. Maybe we can flip him.
I think he's on that way. He's maybe seeing the light. So
Where's he work?
we have no idea now. But listen here.
Jim Ferris is one of the people, including Jill Daniels, who assaulted him and his girlfriend that one night, including all those other, the McAlberts all standing out of D&E Pizza when they went to McCarthy's for a meal of food.
He at least shook Dennis's hand. So that's progress there.
Something.
Yeah. Himself.
All right, let's move on to after court, after Aiden gets out of court. I lost my timestamp. Hold on one second. I don't remember what it is. 229.
Well, I mean, you can't blame the police unions. It's lucrative for them.
Oh, fuck yeah, man.
And then they align with the politicians that keep the P.
All right, here we go. This is Aiden coming out of court. This is on the witness intimidation charges. Remember, looking for Ken Mello's testimony, but because he made himself a witness in colluding with Kate Peter, Lindsay Gattani, and Ryan Tully to arrest Aiden. So here he is outside court.
That's what she said. But
Where are we now?
well, you heard it. We're filing a motion to dismiss within the next week or so. So expect that. We're gonna get this. This needs to end. It's been going on for long enough. It's time to dismiss this case. There's no need for it whatsoever. I didn't intimidate anyone. I peacefully protested. I did a journalism. I
did
advocated for justice, and that's not a crime in the United States of America. And to get me indicted, what they presented to the grand jury was a complete distortion of the things that I said on my show, taking little clips and not putting the entire clip in there. And when you do that, it completely changes the meaning of the things that you said, and that's grounds for a motion to dismiss under Odell. So, because the Odell case was a guy gave a ride to a bank robber, right? And he told the cops, he gave his buddy a ride to the bank. His buddy went in and robbed the bank. He had no idea he was doing this, I guess. And when the police asked him about it later on, and they said, what happened? And he said, well, I gave him a ride to the bank, but I didn't know he was going to rob it. And to the grand jury, they just presented the first part of that. And they said, well, I gave him a ride to the bank. And they didn't think he's guilty. They didn't put the part in where he said, but I didn't know he was going to rob it. And it's the same thing that they've done with me with my quotes. They've taken little things that I've said and just completely left out the most important parts where I say this is peaceful, et cetera. We're going to break it all down. And this is outrageous that we're even here, but we're gonna have a victory in this, and it's coming sooner than you realize. So looking forward to it. So good day today. Nice and quick, and we don't think Mello is going to be around much longer. That's another thing we were told. So, well, Cosgrove today said to us at the end, he said that this is not me. You think I'm cold-hearted? Cosgrove told us that God is going to take care of our Mello problem. That's what he told us today.
Okay.
I shit you not. That's what Cosgrove told us.
Wow.
He goes, the Mello issue is going to be moved out. He said God is going to take care of the Mello problem. Those are his words. We will see. Sounds like I think that's his way of saying he's dying, like any day now, kind of thing. So, yeah, it's a Berkey. I mean, it's the same thing. It's so we'll see what happens with that. Oh yeah, thank you guys for coming. I love you people. Thank you guys. Love you guys.
Have a good weekend.
All right, so that was his response after court. I'm going to read you someone on X who goes by Dag Nabbit, or their handle is Lamplighter1630. They always have good posts and do like recaps and things, and I really like their posts. But anyways, so here is what they posted today. Turtle Boy will file motion to dismiss, case postponed to March 5th. A quick hearing in Aiden Turtleboy Kearney's witness intimidation case this morning in Norfolk Superior Court. Judge Michael Doolin agreed to hear Attorney Bradle's motion to dismiss the witness intimidation and other charges against Kearney on March 5th at 2 p.m. So they're going to be able to argue that. Bradle informed the court that he will be filing an Odell McCarthy motion to dismiss all the charges against Aiden, but by next Thursday, January 16th, there were no objections from prosecutor Cosgrove. So I wonder if Cosgrove is like, well, maybe if it gets dismissed, that wouldn't be a bad thing. This type of dismissal motion is usually based on the defense's argument that there were significant problems with the manner in which the state grand jury decided probable cause to indict the defendant. Under Odell, the defense must prove that the Commonwealth provided insufficient evidence at the grand jury. Under McCarthy, they must prove that the evidence presented to the grand jury was not evidence of actual criminal activity. Attorneys Bradle and Betterow, who attended the hearing via Zoom, appear to be marshaling a defense of Aiden Kearney that argues that Massachusetts witness intimidation statute is unconstitutional, or at least as it's being applied against Kearney, especially because they're weaponizing it against him to silence him. Aiden is a journalist who employs aggressive and polarizing tactics to report on corruption and criminal activity, his attorneys argue, but his confrontations of key witnesses in the Karen Reed trial are protected speech under the First Amendment to the Constitution. Judge Doolin, who will preside over the case at least through March, will hear these arguments in full, as well as rebuttals by Cosgrove at the March 5th hearing. In the meantime, Cosgrove will be provided with any evidence from Kearney's devices that are currently being filtered for privileged and/or personal information by a taint team, as soon as Kearney's attorneys provide the court and the taint team with their proposed keywords. That's what he was talking about, certain keywords that they want to exclude that are going to be privileged because they're going to help him with his case. So Bradle indicated that he would submit the full list of keywords by close of business today. Bradle also returned the physical copies of Lindsay Gattani's phone extraction. Remember, they wanted that back for whatever reason because it wasn't redacted with personal information. They gave Aiden everything on her phone extraction, which was probably not the smartest idea in their part. So Bradle returned the physical copies of Lindsay's phone extraction, as well as executed copies of the protective order on her extraction signed by Kearney and his lawyers. So they're not going to talk about her personal stuff. Unless Judge grants Kearney's motion to dismiss, it appears that he and Karen Reed will be on trial in the same courthouse at the same time this coming spring. That would be terrible, and they probably are going to do that on purpose because they don't want Aiden talking and reporting on the case, but he has every right to as a journalist. In Norfolk County, if Norfolk County was hoping that Karen Reed's second trial would elicit less of a public outcry this time around, they sure have a funny way of showing it. That's according to Dag Nabbit. And according to Aiden, this was his update right after court this morning. He says, update on court this morning. We will be filing a motion to dismiss in front of Judge Doolin within the next couple of weeks. Judge Doolin chose not to hear arguments to recuse Ken Mello from the case because he made himself a witness by conspiring with the fake victim to frame me on December 24th, 2023. After the hearing, Special Prosecutor Cosgrove told us God is going to take care of the Mello issue soon and said that he is dying. We handed over copies of the fake victim cell phone extraction that Judge Krupp ordered us to give back. We can still use information we've seen in her phone if it's helpful to our defense. It's unclear if Special Prosecutor Cosgrove is aware that the fake victim recently had a full year HPO placed on her for threatening to take the life of a mother and her children, and then had her renewal order against me denied on Monday after a judge determined that she was not in fear. Next hearing in Dedham District Court will be on January 24th to pick a trial date for the violation of the RO charge from 22624. That's the whole wait, what? Does he mean 25? I think he means 2025 to pick a trial date for the violation of the RO order. So that's for violating the restraining order. Next hearing in Dedham District Court will be on January 24th to pick a trial date for the violation of the restraining order charge from 22624. What violation order from 22624? That's what's confusing me. Because he was arrested in 12, 26, 24. I don't know. Maybe. Maybe it's supposed to be 12. Judge Pomeroy still has not ruled on the Rule 17 motions for Colin McCabe and Megan McCabe, Matt's siblings, phones to see communications between them and who's the fake victim. So the fake victim was talking to Matt McCabe's siblings. The next hearing in Norfolk Superior Court will be March 5th. That's where they're going to argue the motion to dismiss, which I look forward to reading if we get our hands on it because I think that's going to be a good one. So what do you guys think of this, Mello's health conditions and what Cosgrove said about him? Let me know in the comments below. Please hit the like button on your way out and please have a great day. I will see you guys in the next one. Take care. Bye now.